Okay, hello everyone, and welcome one more time to the podcast, Product Notes. I'm here today with two people. Again, Thomas, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you, Mario.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Great, and we're in a new place. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're actually today in Wix office. It's a very nice office, as you can see from the panoramic. And we also have today Ronny. How are you?
I'm good. It's very warm outside, also warm inside, so I'm good.
Yeah. So, Ronny, you are the VP of Strategic Products at Wix, I said correctly?
I have some fake title that I'm not sure what it means, but I'm managing a bunch of product groups in Wix, dealing with a lot of initiatives. So I'm doing a lot of stuff in Wix.
Cool. Before we start, you just remind me something, but I think we need to congratulate Thomas from finishing the Ironman.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Thomas.
Thank you.
Wow.
Was it
I'm
difficult?
not going to do Ironman. Why? So no competition from my side.
Tomorrow I'll explain you. It's not that hard.
Yeah. How do you feel after you finish?
Good, thanks. It's a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Good to have you back. You did it in the best place in the world. Yeah. So, Ronny, today we are here because we want to talk about delivering fast and building products as fast as we can. And we would like to start with short questions. Yes, no, maybe short answer if you want.
Okay.
So
this will also help a bit to get to know you better because, corporate titles is one thing, but the reality is usually different.
Okay. Cool.
So let's try to please try to be as, concise as possible. We'll go with the questions one by one. So let's go. So once again, what is your official role at Wix?
I told you, I have a fake title. It's called the SVP Strategic Projects and Mobile, or the vice versa, Mobile and Strategic Project.
Okay, and what your role really is?
I'm managing around 30 companies in Wix, dealing with both infrastructure and also product companies. So I'm basically doing a lot of stuff on the tech stack of Wix, by delivering multiple products to our users.
How many people do you manage?
750, something like that.
Is it difficult?
It's not, because I don't really manage them directly. Everyone asked me that question. So no, I'm managing managers who manage these people. So the number is insignificant. I think that what's important is what they do, these groups. And I think that's the fun part. That I can deal with a lot of topics and a lot of things and to create connections between them. And that wasn't a short answer, but but I try to keep it short from now on.
I still think you're a bit humble. Okay, so how many roughly direct people do you manage?
I think 24, something like that.
Yeah, it's around 30 the last time.
30. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, do you know how many products are under your responsibility, roughly?
65, something like that.
Okay. What do you love most at work?
The people. I think that, that's an easy answer and the short one. The people, definitely.
What do you hate most?
Some of the people. No, really. The thing that I hate most is when we have practices that are helping no one other than to slow down the company. So that's something that I'm irritated by.
Could you name a few things about teams, like the best teams you ever worked with? What are like the features, 1 to 3?
So I think that team spirit is something that I most value. The fact that everyone wants to help the others in the team, and the fact that no one leaves something unattended, meaning that if I see something that is unattended, I'm jumping on it. I think that this is where we see juniors become seniors the fastest.
How much time it takes a junior to become a senior?
So I've seen juniors that in a year became senior. It's really in the mindset. By the way, it's not about the technical skill or the profession. It's about the mindset. How fast I can see the big picture, how fast I can understand what the team needs, and how easy it is for me professionally to push the team forward. And sometimes it takes forever, because in some cases people cannot live up to the expectation and they are not good enough. But it could be very fast.
You've been managing product teams for many years. Do you think anything has changed in your leadership style, let's say, over the last 10 years?
I think that I in the last 10 years. Okay, so I've been in Wix like 9 years.
Yeah.
So in Wix.
Yes.
I think that I've started with doing a lot of deep dive and details, and I started to pull out from it, and then I moved back into doing details and pulling out. And I think that when you pull out from the details and you manage people from the far, you're getting disconnected from the product, from the people, and you'll find out that you're irrelevant. So you'll need to go down into the details again. So I'm a big fan of being in the product, being with the team, in the details, making sure that I know everything that they're doing and I can speak their language. Otherwise, I'm irrelevant. So I'm a fan of leading by example.
But these 60 companies, let's say you do 30 minutes meetings, how do you deal with it?
So I don't. I have a trick. I don't do regular meetings. I don't do one-on-ones. I do one-on-ones when I need, to speak with someone, but I don't do that regularly. And I dive deep into products when it's the relevant time for that product. When the product is on track, then I just leave it to run on its own. And this is why we have good managers like you guys, right? How do you manage like you manage? Because I'm not there picking on you. I'm not there asking you to do stuff for me. You're doing things because you think it's right, because I'm not there. And when I'm there, then you accept it and you run with me. So that's the trick I have.
Yeah, we don't meet too often, actually. Maybe once every 2-3 months and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
And when we meet, am I familiar with what you're doing? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
like Ronny is one of the most into details person I've ever met. And I don't understand how do you manage that with 60 products?
I don't know how you remember things. It's very difficult.
So it becomes hard with time. I'm getting old, but still, it's everything is about passion. When you're passionate about something, then you definitely know the details. You remember things. So. But this podcast is not about me.
But we need to introduce you to our audience.
Okay.
So okay, maybe we jump into more specific questions then.
So actually, let's get closer a bit to the topic, which is delivering fast. And these are the last of my Blitz questions. So speaking of delivering fast, there are various product roles and product teams, like UX, developers, back and front end, business analysts, QA, so on. Do you think there is any tendency, would you name any specific role which tends to or to be good at delivering fast more?
No, I think that delivering fast is a mindset that it's relevant to any role. I mean, anyone in the team needs to be in the mindset of delivering fast. I think that the essence of delivering fast is not about the fast, it's about delivering. You need to deliver. And if you take your time and spend a lot of time in planning and so on, then basically you're missing the point of getting feedback from customers. So it's a mindset. If you're in that mindset, it doesn't matter if you're a UX or a designer, or a UX that is a designer or a developer or a product or whatever.
Do you believe speed is more important than quality?
So no, I don't. But I think that it's a misconception to say that when you deliver fast, then you deliver low quality. I think that this is basically speaking from the people who are not well in terms of delivering fast. Any product that you deliver, if it's a new product or just a feature within an existing product, you need to deliver the essence to the users and to get the reaction. I'll give you a short example without getting into the details. We just did a test in Wix of a feature that we really wanted to. We had high expectations. We thought it's going to be, a boom in terms of revenue. So we put that in the hands of the users, and I think that until now, it's been I think a week and a half. We have 3 customers that bought. Okay, out of thousands that saw this opportunity. Okay, that really means that there's no future for this, even if the quality is not the right thing, even if the offering is not exact. 3 people out of thousands that bought means that there's no future for this feature. So it's better to get it out and see that there is no future than to work on it 6 months and then to discover that there's no future.
Don't you think it might be because of lack of a scope or
no?
Like
Because
features?
One thing that I learned, okay, is that when something is good, then people are buying it, even if it's because we always have early adopters. Mm-hmm. People are buying it even if it's not the accurate feature, because the demand is there. When the demand is not there, it's not going to be successful. So if you put something out there and there's nothing, that means that there's no future. You're going to make moderate progress, but it's not going to be exceptional. When it's exceptional, you know it on the first day.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about giving it to users, but did you ever postpone because it was not in the quality or the feature that you wanted?
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, we do that. I think that what we've learned is that you need to be aware of the timeline ahead of the launch date to be able to cut scope. Okay, so I think that one thing that we are teaching teams is to make sure that they have enough leadway to know that they're going to miss deadline because of the scope, so they can actually cut scope. And this is something teams need to practice. Teams that do not practice that in that way are getting 2 weeks before launch date to know that they're not going to make the timeline, and then they postpone. This is a bad practice. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you have a milestone of, 10 weeks, on week 5, you should have a good understanding if you're going to meet the deadline or not. And if not, you should start cutting scope.
And what if you cannot cut the scope? Does it ever happen?
So it happens sometimes, and in these cases, you need to postpone the deadline. Yeah, definitely, it happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm. How can you cut scope besides, are there any ways to cut scope more besides just cutting out features?
No. Scope is basically features. Okay, so you remove features. Keep in mind that in a team of 20 people or 15 people, you have what we call the highlight of the milestone. So not everyone is working on the highlight of the milestone. You have a lot of things that are being done in parallel, fixing bugs, making sure that you progress with small features that are not the highlight of that milestone. And when you have such a big team, then you can actually cutting scope, meaning that you're taking the people who worked on the things that are not the highlight and move them to work on the things that are the highlight, and by that you basically increase the capacity of the people, and as a byproduct you cut scope because you removed some of the things that you're supposed to do. So when you define a milestone for a team, like a quarter or whatever, you need to define the highlight and you need to define the long tail of features that are not the highlight, so you can have slack, so you can have actually things to cut.
You talk about milestones. What is a milestone?
Okay, so in Wix we have a term called milestone. It's basically a period of time where we say in advance that at the end of that period of time we're going to celebrate a release of something. What is that something? That's the highlight of the milestone. It's one feature, 2 features, 3 features that are very important that we can actually celebrate. So in practice, what we do, and people joke about it, but it's really true, we schedule the party for the release of the features at the end of the milestone. We schedule it in advance. And when you schedule the party in advance, then you don't miss the deadline. Now, what's left is to define the highlights that you can actually meet, and a lot of long tail features that you can cut if needed to meet that milestone. So that's the essence of the milestone. There are a lot of details about milestone and how it works, but that's the essence of what is a milestone.
It's like a PDD, party-driven development. Party-driven development.
Yeah, we can call that party-driven development. Yeah.
Actually, how did you come up with milestone method?
I've been working in milestones since I joined Wix. So it's basically a variant of Agile. We took Agile and we said, okay, what are the good things in Agile? What are the bad things in Agile? And keep in mind that Agile is supposed to solve the problem that the software engineering has from day one, which is missing deadlines, okay, or budgets that are unpredictable. So it didn't really solve meeting deadlines. The only thing that it did is make sure that people follow practices that are, or ceremonies that are not necessarily helping them reach a goal. So we flipped it and we said, okay, we're setting a date. That's the first thing we're doing. And in that date, we know from our gut feeling and not from over planning, we know what we should achieve on that date. Okay, and we have a long tail of features that are we call it the scope. And these are features that we can cut or postpone. So basically, yes, we're delaying some of the things for further milestones if we cannot meet the scope. But the main thing of the milestone is something that we're releasing. And it's been successful ever since I started it. And I introduced it into more and more teams in Wix. And in the last year, we decided to put it across all the company. And I think that we're getting a lot of good feedback about it. And it's a change of mindset for people. But I think that once you practice and run with that, you said it before, you don't want to go back. Okay, so you don't want to go back to just putting a Jira and hoping that it's going to be on time and running with a story and an epic. No, we're doing milestone. This is the highlight. We have a party. We schedule it for July. We're going to meet the deadline. All the team is working to meet the deadline. And that's the magic of it, because the team is working as a team to meet that deadline. And if needed, everyone chips in and help.
There is two things I always get questions when I talk about it in outside Wix. The first one is about technical debt. How do you deal with all this long, you say you cut the scope. A lot of times developers doing wrongly or rightful, they say, okay, we will cut a corner here, cut a corner there because we want to meet the deadline.
Yeah.
And this creates a pile of technical debt that it can become very big. How do you think technical debt should be dealt with when you want to deliver fast, you want to actually make it live and you are cutting corners to achieve it?
So I've seen two types of solutions to that problem. One solution is basically to introduce the technical debt as part of the feature. So when we create a milestone, my instruction to the company heads is basically to send the document of the milestone to the team, to the entire team, so everyone can add their task into that milestone. And what we actually see is a lot of the things that are added by developers are the technical debt that they're unhappy with, and by the R&D manager and the team leaders and so on. So you have a bunch of tasks that are in the scope that are technical debt. So that's one thing that happens. The second thing that happens that in some cases we're doing a milestone just to close technical debt. So I've seen many teams. That's what they're doing. They're doing few milestones of features, and then one milestone, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks of technical debt. Rewriting of stuff, making sure that they fix quality. Just recently, we asked everyone to do a quality milestone. Quality milestone basically means that the highlight of the milestone is quality, meaning that you have, by definition, a lot of small things that you wanted to do before and you never had the time. So these are the tricks. Either you do a milestone for that, or you just add it into the scope. But it's definitely there. Because if it wasn't there, everything would collapse.
Yeah.
Right? So it's there. We just need to understand where it is.
I get a lot of times question from my developers of like, why always technical debt? It feels that it's being cut. Like, it's the easy candidate when we are about to reach the deadline and we need some people to move to the highlight. The first things that our candidate is always technical debt or a small feature or a small improvement on UX or whatever, because are the small things that you can really twist. What do you think about these comments from?
So I think that partly they're right. I think that it's in the hands of the team leader or the group manager. It's in their hand to balance and to make sure that we are dealing with the technical debt. But keep in mind that we are a business company or a user-driven company, and we do need to deliver things to users. And if there's something that is constantly being cut, maybe it's not that important. And sometimes we need to reflect that. Maybe this is, time to do something else or whatever. So I think that, they're right. It needs to have a balance by the group manager, but it also needs to sometimes understand and reflect that it's not the most important thing right now, and we need to deal with most important things.
Okay, so technical debt was this always the first question. The second question is about product discovery. Because by definition, product discovery takes time. You need to call the users, you need to have interviews. It's a long process.
Yeah.
And normally a milestone is 7 to 10 weeks, more or less, depending. It's very hard to do discovery and the highlight of the milestone in the same milestone.
Or maybe to rephrase this a little, like how ready do you think the knowledge, what needs to be done should be there before starting the actual feature development?
So it really depends. I think that in a group that works on a single product for a very, very long time, product discovery happens all the time. Okay, so it's rarely that you come into a milestone with a feature that you only know the name and you don't really know all the details. You didn't get request on it or customer feedback or whatever. So in these cases, it's not an issue. It's only an issue where you're doing something completely new, either in your product or adjacent to your product, and you really need to prepare because you need to understand what users want. So in these cases, you do need to do product discovery. You do need to understand the users. You need to have, as fast as you can, the whole team into the discussion, because it's never about a single product manager that speaks to customers, then we can get a feature defined. No, it's never the case. You need to have the team, not just the UX, not just the content writer, also the developers, also anyone that the BA, anyone that is in the team needs to pitch in and to understand why we're doing what we're doing, what's the better thing that we should do, what's the alternatives, what's going to be the cost, how to build it and design it. Is there another solution that we can build for it? So I think that it's a team effort. The sooner you get it into the team, the better. One thing that you can do if it's a completely new feature, you can define a milestone that's it's not the highlight of the milestone, but it's a task in the milestone is a product definition. And the product definition is, as I said, not a one-man job. It's a team's work. So have a team work on that during the milestone. So at the beginning of the next milestone, you have a better understanding of what you're doing. But it's not the rule. The rule is, in most cases, it should be within a milestone. You do the definition because you already know what you need to do. So you just dive into the details during the milestone. That's the best.
Mm-hmm. It feels sometimes when we're working on like the same product that the features are coming and it feels that you know everything, but sometimes you also need to step out and see.
I agree, and I see product managers that are taking 2 weeks to do some research on something that is out of the scope of the milestone. But it's in the long tail. As I said, in the long tail of the scope of the milestone, it's not only developers' tasks. It's also product manager tasks. It's also UX tasks. So everyone needs to have their task in the long tail of the scope. So in the long term, if you need to do that, you need to do that.
Mm-hmm. You want to continue, Thomas? Or?
Yeah, one thing I was wondering, since you are for 9 years at Wix, I'm wondering, you have seen the company basically from a few hundreds, I assume, to
800.
To many, many thousands, right? So do you think that scale basically impacted the speed of the product teams, and how did you deal with that?
So I think that one thing that happens with scale is that once you do something, you do it much better in terms of quality, in terms of the scalability of it, and so on. But it takes longer. It takes longer because one thing that was handled by a single team previously is now handled by 3 teams because we have few layers. So yes, it slows us down, but not significantly, because I think that what we've learned in Wix is that the culture that we've built is that we allow anyone to run as fast as they can, even if it means that they need to either contribute or bypass some kind of infrastructure, as long as we correct it at the end, right? So if I created some kind of bypass to an infrastructure, then there is kind of a non-written rule that says at some point you're going to need to go back to that infrastructure. And that allows us to move faster and to test faster the products that we launch. And I think that it works. It's not perfect, but it works.
But some people might hear this and say, "Oh, this is rushing development, not delivering fast. Just trying to rush as much as we can." No.
Yeah, we're trying to rush as fast as we can because we want to release features fast. We are minded to the infrastructure and to the fact that we need our products to scale and to live for many years. So we are balancing the two. If you'll only wait for the infrastructure to be ready and only then build on top of it, then you'll never get anything out. If you build in parallel and then move to the infrastructure, you win from both worlds.
And what are the main issues you found during these years by, let's say, rushing or doing it fast, bypassing, however we want to call it?
So I think that the outcome that we see is that we have some technical debt. Okay, we need to migrate products from a non-infrastructure to an infrastructure that was built later on. In essence, we build few things in parallel by few teams because the infrastructure was not ready to accommodate. So it looks like a waste. But I'll give you an example. We built events, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe more. 8 years ago. 8 years. Time flies. So we built events, and we needed a checkout because we wanted to sell tickets. So we created a checkout, and that's probably the third or fifth checkout that we have in Wix. If we had waited for ecom platform, we had events only this year. Okay, so basically, this is the balance that we did. We wanted to have events out, making sure that people can buy tickets and not wait for the infrastructure. So I think that this balance is also the balance that we do with the DNA and the spirit of the company. We want to make sure that we release products fast and not being caught by the bureaucracy or infrastructure that needs to be ready and so on. But we're moving into the infrastructure once it's ready. So that's an important part because we want to be efficient. We want to make sure that we can build and do compound building of products on top of other products.
Ronny, since you mentioned bureaucracy, actually, how do you think bureaucracy and processes in general help or actually slow down you?
So bureaucracy is always said in a negative context, but it's actually something that is mandatory. We just need to make sure that we have the right bureaucracy. I think that making sure that, I booked a flight to Vilnius. I went into a system and punched in the details that I want. And like magic, I had a plane ticket in my email. Okay, so this is basically bureaucracy that's working well, right? There is a system, there is someone there that needed me to fill some details. If I didn't fill these details, then I wouldn't get my flight ticket. So I think that we do need practices. When we call them processes, it's on a negative side. When we call them practices, it's on the positive side. Yep. So I'm saying we need practices. They need to be good. We need to improve them all the time. And I think that when you scale, you need to be very, very precise because any mistake you make in a practice, that means that a lot of people are suffering and you're going to get a lot of shit from people. So basically, building practices or these processes well is something that is an art, and we need to be very good in that.
What would be the advice you would give to people that is now building those practices in their companies and they want to develop fast? What are the 2-3 things to look at?
So I think that the most important part is to make sure that you understand the psychology behind these practices. In the milestone method, as an example, everything is built around motivating people. Right? Even in the small ceremonies that we have a sprint meeting. So we say that in the sprint meeting, the team members need to write their own task. They need to have their name near the task. And at the end of the week, in the next sprint meeting, they will do a demo on that task. Okay, so this loop of taking ownership, volunteering, taking ownership, and bragging about the result, this is a circle that creates motivation. Once you have people trapped in motivation loop, then you're winning. So I think that anything that we're doing is around how we build motivations, either to individuals or to teams. So I think the psychology of it is the most interesting part, and you should invest in that.
Mm-hmm. Last year, you did actually quite a big transformation within the company, like moving to the milestone method, coming up with it, integrating it into different teams. But in other companies, when they're doing such kind of transformations, they often invite people called like agile coaches, scrum masters. Do you think that these kind of people can do the changes of such scale?
I think that it really depends on the DNA of the company that you want. I wanted the DNA that is really tailored into what works well for Wix. There's no agile coach out there that knows how to work in Wix. And I think that the only coaches that we have, and by the way, we have coaches, it's just people who practice the milestone method in their company and they're now teaching others. I think that if you build a DNA, you need to have the right coaches. And if you bring coaches from the outside, you're going to get a DNA of textbook. And if a textbook is what you want, that's fine. But if you want something tailored, then you either recruit those coaches to work inside your company, you build a DNA in a small team, and then you scale out.
Mm-hmm. How do you deal with speed and innovation, right? Because sometimes being very fast you can fall into doing quick wins and not really think about what is my next 10x growth.
So one thing that, by the way, I'm gonna explain it tomorrow. One thing that we need to make sure that we do is 30% innovation. 30%. Okay, 30, not 13. 30. That means that 30% of your resource, of your attention, of your time span needs to go to innovation. Why? Because otherwise you're dead. Not now, in 5 years or 6 years or something like that, but you're dead. There's a very there's one book that I call it the book of my decade, which is the book is called the Innovator Dilemma. The Innovator Dilemma, it's a very known book, speaks about companies that fail to innovate. And because of the size, right? If you think about Wix, it's we're going to make it very soon $2 billion in revenue. Okay, so when you're making $2 billion in revenue, you cannot really think about innovation that makes $1 million per year. Okay, it's not the scale that we work in. But if you'll fail to build innovations that make 1 million, they're not going to make 100 millions in 4 or 5 or 6 years. So you need to spend resources, although they're not in the highest priority of what you're doing as core, to make sure that you survive. So I think that innovation is critical in everything that you do, and you need to do allocation for that, because it's not going to be trivial. The trivial thing to do is to answer support calls, is to fix problems that users have in your main product, and to work only on the product that makes you the most money, and not to work on things that are innovative. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is that within the practice of releasing products to the market as fast as possible, you have to have innovation. Otherwise, you cannot really make it. The most innovative teams that I see, or the most innovative things that happen in teams, is when you have a deadline and you need to meet that deadline. So you need to invent something that wasn't there before.
Yeah, to get creative.
And you see the innovation. I think this is why people, the team members, this is why they like to work in a milestone method, because they have, ingenuity. They create things that they didn't think that they're gonna create it at the beginning. And by the way, it's the same story in every, in startups, for example. The things that you build in a startup, the things that you plan to build when you raise money for a startup, are almost never the things that you actually deliver and become successful with. Why? Because you're doing trial and error, and you find innovation, and you create things that you didn't think that you're gonna create just because you have to. Okay, so the necessity is basically what drives innovation.
You have like a speed in your DNA, and it's many years working like that? How do you deal and not get a burnout, not deal with the stress? Like kind of constantly delivering and being fast might put you in a situation where like you start missing deadlines and it's frustrating also. So how do you deal with not...
So it's a question, if it's a question on the personal level or on the team level, because it's like two separate things.
Maybe let's go with the personal first, and then we can talk about the team.
So on the personal level, I think that when you're doing something because you're passionate about, then there's no burnout, right? I went, at some point, I went back to my parents' home, and I opened the laptop on a weekend. And my mother said, "You're always working. Don't they give you any rest?"
Mom's always worried.
Yeah, and I said, "This is not really work, right? I opened the laptop because I want to, not because I have to." So when you work with passion, there's no burnout. There's also a saying, I don't know how it's called in Lithuania, but in Israel, it's like the first day of work is Sunday. So you said, okay, there's a Sunday bummer, right? No, there's nothing like that, because I'm waiting for Sunday because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And the minute I won't be passionate about what I'm doing, then yes, I'm going to get burned. So it's not about working hard, working long hours. It's about what you're doing. What is the impact that you're making? So that's on the personal level, and I think everyone is different. So anyone that is listening needs to basically understand what his motivation, what drives them. On the team level, I think it's different. On the team level, for example, we introduced the parties. Why? At the end of the milestone or the celebration. Why? Because it gives the team time for kind of recognition to what they did. When you don't work, when you don't celebrate releases regularly, you don't have the opportunity to look back and to be impressed of your achievements. It's like when you're climbing a mountain. Okay, you know that from running a marathon, right? When you're running a marathon and you don't look back to see what you've passed, it's really hard. Because it's hard to just deal with the day-to-day. So celebrating is something that is mandatory to make sure that people recognize that what they did. I think that also at some point we consider the beginning of the next milestones to be something more relaxed. And by definition, it's more relaxed because you have 10 weeks to finish something. Okay, it's a long time, 10 weeks. Okay, so the first 2 weeks could be easy. So there's a ritual of, speeding, releasing, becoming a bit slow, and then speeding, releasing, and that's again. But recognizing what you did, it's also the job of the manager. You need to tell the team what they did. You need to make them proud of what they did. You need to celebrate the achievements, and they need to be proud of that. That's a big part of it.
I found what it works very good is once a month, take one day, and work on something that is out of the milestone. Just one day. Friday, we take like maybe 4-6 hours. The team releases a lot of like energy, and they can like think, get creative, not be aware about what is the deadline that is maybe in 2 weeks. It's okay. Let's take like 4 hours, relax, and then boom.
And it works?
It works very good.
Yeah, it's a good practice.
Yeah, we also take some, breakfast together that we normally don't breakfast together is something different. So trying to get also people a bit outside of their comfort zone, but in a nice way, so they can actually charge up and come back stronger.
Cool. One thing that I've learned is that teams do not really need big time frames to recharge, okay? Because when you have a full week of doing nothing just because you worked hard, that means that people are getting bored and it's demotivating instead of motivating. So these small breaks are great.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Mario.
I thought that the guest is Ronny, not me.
What did you learn?
Oh, what did I learn? I think we have talked with Ronny many times, and some of the questions were kind of, we were setting him up for looking for some answers. But I have reaffirmation of what we are building here. I think that everything that Ronny explained is exactly how we work. Why I'm here also 6 years, because I keep having motivation. I always have this fight with my wife who says like, why you're checking your phone? Because I like it. It's not that I have any problem with it. I just check it. I saw that someone messaged me. If I would not like the message, I just don't answer the person now. But normally it's an interesting problem to solve. I like to solve problems. So it's actually...
Yeah, I have a very similar, like I used to have, get a lot of notifications and you open each of them. Like what I did, I turned all notifications off, but when I found myself, I'm anyway opening my phone every half an hour or something, but I chose to do it, right?
Yeah,
and it's a very different thing.
And sometimes it's, when I go back, I also need my time to disconnect. It's very important to be able to disconnect. So the only thing that works for me is to force myself, and I delete everything from my phone related to work. And I said, okay, now I need to install it. I really need to, I really need to want to do it. So yeah. And what about you?
I only got confirmation bias that what we're doing is the right thing. Of course, I learned some new details. That's always, interesting to hear the perspective, and to understand better the reasoning behind different methodologies, why they're there, how they were introduced, how are they in different teams, because, you're always boiling in your own juice. It's always good, to learn from others, to hear, from people who see many teams overall.
Yeah. Maybe we can finish with one last question to Ronny, more specific to Lithuania.
Let's do.
You manage teams in Israel, you manage teams in Ukraine, you manage teams in Lithuania. Is there any difference in the speed?
Be honest.
So
no bias.
So I think how do I not fail in my words? Okay. So I think that one thing that I've learned about Lithuanians is that you're very precise and you're very accurate in what you're delivering. So the quality of the things that you're delivering is a bit higher than in Ukraine and Israel. It's sometimes on the account of releasing fast, and sometimes not. And I've seen many examples of I've set a deadline and you met a deadline and you released something and it was high quality to begin with. One thing that I know about Israelis is that I'm Israeli, so it's easier for me personally to work with people that are in the office because I really like office work. I think that the fact that I'm not here with you in the corridors is something that creates a problem, and this is why you're more independent than teams in Israel, where I pass in the corridor and I tell them what's up, why do you doing what you're doing, and not
morning coffee.
Yeah. So I think that these are the things. In Ukraine, we have a crazy situation right now because the teams are very, some of them are in Poland, some of them are in Ukraine. They're very much hard workers. They're very technical, very fun to work with. They sometimes don't laugh from my jokes, but that's a different thing. Other than that,
they're very resilient. This is what I learned from working with them. Nothing can stop them.
Yes,
it's crazy.
That's correct. Also, no electricity, no problem. We have laptop 3 hours until
diesel generator.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ronny, very much for joining us. The time flied.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.